Changing your state of domicile. This is a conversation we have regularly with our clients, especially as they look at their next phase in retirement or potentially even transitioning for job opportunities, to make sure it's the right fit for them too. So a lot of that could be financially related, but a lot of it's not. It's really focused on the community and potential family that you need around you. So let's dive into that.
So often the conversation when it comes to relocating or changing your state of domicile really comes down to, what do you want your life to look like? What will provide fulfillment in that new location? And we find community activities and hobbies and even the infrastructure, not just from the things that you like to do day in and day out, but also healthcare, really drive that holistic community that you might seek, that feeling of home that you know and desire. Typically we recommend spending a month or two in that location to make sure that you will be happy there and you're finding the cadence of life that you really desire with making this change.
Right, making sure that lifestyle fits into your fulfillment, making sure that the community you're going to be comfortable with and the personalities that are going to be around you on a daily basis. Those are all things that are going to bring you happiness and make sure that it's the right fit for you.
Right, and even just spending some time in a certain area might help you understand the neighborhoods and better identify a property if you don't already own property in that area, and help ensure that you're happy wherever you end up for the long term. Because certainly it's an investment for the future if you're buying real estate, and we want to make sure that you don't have to continue to move and have costly expenses down the road.
Yeah, and that perfect example, like spending time in that community and making sure it's the right fit for you. We have clients that vacation throughout all of their careers and spent time in many different places. One specifically said, yes, I'm going to move here, specific to Naples, Florida. Once they retired, they spent 3 to 4 months there, and that was much longer, significantly longer than what they were originally, or what they really have done in the past. And it really put in the perspective that they did not want to be there. They thought the lifestyle was a little bit too slow for them based on where they were at in their lives. The overall community was not what they were looking for from the engagement. So ultimately, they decided to look elsewhere and start to move around the country and think about or spend time throughout the country and really find their next permanent home for themselves. So just one example, and certainly there's a lot of those out there like that, but to Molly's point, that is a big financial commitment too. So let's dive into that next.
Yeah, so certainly as we look at some of the recent trends, and not just since the last year, but even throughout COVID, as people relocating. And in 2023, we saw a number of population increases in lower income tax states. And whether that is because there's warmer weather in some of those states, combined with lower income taxes, certainly that's something to reflect on. But at the end of the day, really understanding what are the financial implications when you relocate. And just 2 examples I think that are really important to reflect on are, for those who are considering relocating for a new job, if you're moving your family with you, looking at the cost of living where you're moving. Because as much as you might have a salary increase that you really feel will be significant, if you're moving to a higher income tax state paired with cost of living adjustment, that could really not necessarily mean as significant of a pay increase as you anticipated, right? So that's something to reflect on. And even partnering that with, is it the right fit for you, for your loved ones, and will you be happy there?
Right.
So that's one piece of the financial conversation when we think about new jobs. The other is more of an ongoing conversation around retirees.
Yeah.
So we see a number of retirees looking to move to that lower income tax state, and taking a step back and digging into a few pieces of the financial picture is something we really strive to do before a client makes that decision. So just to give a quick example, you have Arizona and Florida that have become very popular.
Right.
And when we think about retirement income, I think that's a great example that we really strive to educate clients on, because we live in the state of Illinois. Illinois is a state that does not tax on retirement distributions. And then when you look at Florida and Arizona, Florida also does not tax on retirement distributions or Social Security. But on the other hand, Arizona does tax on those 401k and IRA distributions.
Right.
And I think the point of reflection is that, especially as you've worked hard throughout your life, if you've accumulated pretty significant balances in retirement plans, what is that tax ultimately going to look like? And is there enough of a delta to make that worthwhile from a tax perspective? So that's something that we want to help measure, we want to evaluate, and certainly it's a big consideration.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example, like through our year-end planning process for our wealth advisory clients. These are things that we're digging into to understand those trade-offs and really able to build those scenarios out to show, whether you maintain your lifestyle here, say Illinois or the current state, or you transition to Florida. What's the overall savings from an income tax standpoint? Or if you go to Arizona, for example, what's the difference in those retirement distributions from your IRA or potential Social Security taxes? Those are all factors that we can look at and encompass that into that financial decision. But from our perspective, it still focuses on the first conversation, is the lifestyle, and fulfillment is usually the highest priority, because what we typically don't want to see is you just moving to Florida when you don't like the heat, you don't like the humidity, and you don't like anything about the location you're in. So like those are things that you really want to focus on first versus the financial piece.
So as a next step, Neil, what are some things that we support clients with in this process?
Yeah, this is a big conversation and a big decision, right? And what you want to be thinking about is all these different factors, not just the financial piece. And that's how we support our clients going forward. We have these conversations throughout the year, but most importantly, these are the questions we're opening up and having the deeper dive around our year-end planning process. If there is a near-term move in place, that's where we want to engage on that modeling process to understand those trade-offs relative to the financial piece. Even have the discussion around the lifestyle and the family situation, but also even the healthcare arrangements around the location that you're diving into. But finally, once you make that transition, we want to be that advocate to make sure that your financial life follows appropriately to the state that you move to. That's just not making sure the proper updates on potential taxes on distributions from the retirement accounts or even the estate plan. Those are all things that we're going to partner with you on and making sure that it's a smooth transition going forward. So that concludes our topic here today. We'd welcome a discussion if you have questions in the near term. Otherwise, as I already mentioned, we'll be having these conversations through our year-end planning process. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.